Hey guys, good morning, happy Thursday. So I wanted to go through the nouns worksheet with you guys so that you can kind of, obviously I would be doing the same thing that I would be doing if you guys were in person. So typically I would go over the beginning portion of the nouns worksheet. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen and hope this works. All right. So if you look at, so this is a two-sided sheet. Now, you guys are doing this on the computer, and I'm also posting this to my in-person students as well. So for you guys that are in person, you will have an actual copy of the worksheet. So for my virtual kids, you can stick with the same directions that are listed on here. I would like for you to make a copy first because with Canvas, I wasn't able to figure out how to allow you guys to edit it. So anyways, if we go through this together, so some of you may be thinking, why in the world are we going over parts of speech? But in my first couple years of teaching, I realized that a lot of students had forgotten maybe something they learned in elementary school or middle school. So I am choosing to kind of go back to the basics. Okay, so you guys can see that. So we're starting with nouns. Everyone knows that a noun is a word used to name a person, place, thing, or idea. I've got charts here to help you identify what is what. You guys can refer back to these charts as you go through the exercises if you need to. So we've got examples of people: carpenter, Ray Charles, sister, child, places, canyon, Kenosha, neighborhood, basement, things, desk, train, footprint, so on and so forth. And then you have ideas are also considered nouns. So courage, happiness, truth, any sort of feeling. So if you scroll down, the first type of noun we're going to focus on is a common noun. Now, a common noun names a class of things. In other words, it's just something general. It's nothing specific. It's not super important. So you've got your chart here of common nouns. You have planet, river, state, artist, president. Some people would think president is actually a proper noun, but when you are referring to just the simple title, it is a common noun because there are multiple presidents or have been. You have monument, building, ship, airplane. Then you have this side over here. A proper noun names a particular person, place, or thing. So these are specific. So when you're looking at planet, you've got something specific is Venus, Idaho, Rio Grande. When you have common nouns of artist, president, then you have proper nouns that are specific. The artist Henry Matisse and then President Thomas Jefferson. Monument, building, common noun. Anything specific is specifying which building, so Empire State Building. Same thing when you think about schools. There are tons of Hamilton County schools in general, but when you name a specific school, it becomes a proper noun. And then you have ship, airplane is a common noun. Specify a ship and an airplane, you have those right there. Now, if you'll notice, the biggest difference between common noun versus proper noun is that the proper nouns are capitalized, okay? So that is an easy way to identify a proper noun because it is capitalized. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump to the first exercise you guys are going to do because it deals with common and proper nouns. So the directions say in each of the sentences below, underline the common nouns and bold the proper nouns. Now for my in-person students, I have you guys circling the proper nouns. Virtual kids, you can keep it with the bold because you guys will be editing this via Google Docs. So for example, a sari is a garment worn by women in India. The common nouns you underline are sari, garment, and women. The one proper noun, which you can tell because it is capitalized, would be India. So if we did number one together, we have one book talked about the crash of the Titanic into an iceberg in the Atlantic. Now, if you just focus on the common nouns first, you would have book, crash, and I'm going to go back to that in a second, and then you have iceberg. Okay, now some students would argue crash is a verb. It's an action. Yes, it can be, but in this type of sentence, it is actually talking about the event itself. So crash would be considered a common noun. So again, you would underline book, crash, and iceberg. The proper nouns here, you have Titanic, and Atlantic. So you'd either bold those or circle those. Okay, so then you would go on and do 2 through 10 on your own, and then we're going to scroll back up and go over concrete versus abstract. So these are two types of nouns that you may have forgotten from when you learned this early on, or maybe you've never learned it. So concrete nouns name an object that can be perceived by the five senses. So your five senses being sight, smell, taste, touch, and hear. So any of these words, any of these nouns, you can do one of those five senses with. You can see a cat, you can see a moon, you can see lightning, you can feel cotton, you can see George Washington even though he is no longer living, you can hear about him, you can see him. Any kind of person is always a concrete noun. It's physical. I like to think of concrete nouns as physical. So those are concrete nouns right there. And then abstract nouns, these are anything that it's basically like a feeling. Okay, so abstract nouns name a quality or an idea. It's not anything physical, it's more of a feeling. Okay, so freedom, strength, gentleness, failure, anxiety. Some people would argue that you can see love. Yes, you can see love, but it is more of a feeling. So even on some of these where you may say, oh, I could see hope because I see someone being inspiring. Yes, you can see it sometimes, but again, I think of it more as something you can touch, okay? You can't really touch hope. You can't really touch love. You have a feeling of those, okay? So if I go down to the second exercise, it says in each of the sentences below, underline the concrete noun and bold the abstract nouns. Again, in-person students, you guys will circle the abstract nouns. So for example, our dog loves the freedom of our large yard. Dog would be concrete, yard would be concrete. Those both you can see, touch, feel. And then freedom, that's the one abstract noun in the sentence because it is a feeling. All right, number one, if we did this together, Harriet Tubman risked her safety to help runaway slaves. Harriet Tubman would be concrete. She is a person, and slaves. Now, why wouldn't you underline runaway? It is an adjective. It is describing slaves. We are only focused on the nouns here. We are not looking at any other part of speech. Students get tripped up all the time, and they choose risked. Risked is the action of the sentence. So you would underline Harriet Tubman and slaves. The one abstract noun or feeling would be safety. So you would bold safety or circle it. Now, then you would go 2 through 10 on your own. Not all of these sentences have one of each. So for example, in the common versus proper noun exercise, you may not always have both common and proper nouns. Same thing with concrete and abstract. You may not always have one of each in your sentences. Okay, so hopefully that explains that. I think that's everything for the directions, and hopefully you are back to seeing me. So again, virtual students, you guys will be copying or making a copy of this and then submit it through Canvas. And I'm going to go over in our little, I've explained to in-person students, and I'm going to make on our Zoom call, make a point to talk about Canvas. But everything needs to be submitted through Canvas. So nouns, virtual students, you guys will make a copy of this after it is edited and then submit it through Canvas. I will do another video going over the correct answers for the nouns. If you have any questions at all as you are working through this, please don't hesitate to email me or send me a message on Canvas. But I hope that was helpful going through that. Refer back to your charts if you need to. Make sure on all these parts of speech that we're going to be going over that you take time to look through this first part, okay, because it kind of explains everything. So hopefully that was helpful, and I will talk to you guys soon.